progress in achieving this target, but more still needs to be done. Hence, the UN General Assembly declared 5 June as the International Day for the fight against IUU fishing. The date was selected because 5 June is the date in 2016 when the first international treaty designed to end illegal fishing, which is the FAO Port State Measures Agreement, entered into force. In the SADC region, 6 countries ratified or acceded, and 1 signed the agreement, making us one of the leading regions on the continent. But more still needs to be done in terms of implementing this instrument and its related instruments. Meeting this ambitious target of ending IUU fishing requires strong awareness-raising efforts to draw attention of the general public to the negative impacts of IUU fishing activities, an activity in which as SADC we have been actively engaged, working with our partners, including WWF. Since June 2017, different organizations globally registered more than 1,000 voluntary commitments to support implementation of targets outlined under the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, particularly SDG 14, highlighting the need to conserve and sustainably use oceans, seas, and marine resources to benefit present and future generations. SADC also registered a voluntary commitment to establish and strengthen existing regional fisheries monitoring, control, and surveillance mechanisms in the Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, and the Indian Ocean region. And this is based on the SADC Protocol on Fisheries and its annex, the Statement of Commitment to Combat Illegal, Unreported, and Unregulated Fishing by the SADC ministers responsible for fisheries. Today, we commemorate World Oceans Day by providing an update, as indicated, on how, as a region, we have progressed. And the title, as indicated, Strengthening Cooperation and Capacity to Stop Illegal Fishing and to Build Sustainable Blue Growth in the SADC region. We've chosen this topic because it also helps us celebrate SADC's existence over the past 40 years. So 2020 marks 40-year celebration of the existence of SADC, the region that has transformed into a cohesive community and is determined to deliver a better standard of living for its people. Let me introduce to you Mr. Stanley Ndafa from Namibia, CEO of the Fisheries Observer Agency, and also the chair of the SADC Regional Technical Team, advising the work for the region to establish the Regional Fisheries Monitoring, Control, and Surveillance Coordination Center. Mr. Ndafa, are you ready with your presentation?
Thank you very much, Dr. Motseki, our very able technical advisor at SADC Secretariat. I am ready for the presentation. May I ask Eduardo to project the presentation, kindly. Yes, thank you very much to everybody that has logged in from all over the world, and in SADC in particular. Before I do the presentation proper, please allow me to, on behalf of the SADC Regional Technical Team, empathize and also sympathize with all families of fishers in the SADC region who have lost their lives due to COVID-19. In fact, COVID-19 is a menace to the whole world, and we must adapt our lives moving forward. Life will never be the same again. Just to add that we really value the contribution of those that have passed on, especially our fishers, and also their contribution to sustainable fishing, food security, and then the economic spin-offs that they have contributed to their respective member states. May I also add that the common heritage of mankind, that's our ocean, has the capacity to sustain the diversity of human and animal life, but we can only do that when we control and manage our resources sustainably. As an example, illegal fishers all over the world compete for the same resource with those that are legally entitled to do so. You will agree with me that this is definitely unfair competition, and then that IUU fishing must not only be condemned, but it should be and it must be eradicated at all costs. Having said that, let's move to the presentation. The presentation outline is as follows. Eduardo, can we have the outline of the presentation? The background was briefly given by Dr. Motseki, the background on SADC. I will touch on the policy framework for sustainable fisheries management in the region. We will also look at our resources in the SADC region. Moving forward, we'll look at the bottlenecks. What are the challenges facing fisheries sector in the SADC region? Of course, also the cost and impact of IUU fishing in the SADC region. How do we combat IUU fishing? How do we fight that? We will look at the regional cooperation in strengthening MCS, monitor, control, and surveillance to combat IUU fishing. We will also talk briefly about the regional MCS Coordination Center that is going to be set up in Maputo, Mozambique. Then also talk about the bilateral and regional interventions in MCS, and then also a need for better alignment, and then the anchorage to improve regional cooperation, which will then be followed by conclusions, and then also a question and answer session that is going to be facilitated by many of the member states. Also, they are present here, RTT members, and we will try to the best of our abilities to respond to your questions. Shall we move over then to the next slide? Yes, Dr. Motseki have highlighted or informed that this year, I think on the 1st of April, SADC turned 40 years old. Really, we have come of age. As you know, the SADC region consists of many other countries, of which the Union of the Comores is the latest member of SADC. Without further ado, in giving background, I would want us to move to the status of the fisheries resources in the SADC region and deal with those. But the framework, sorry, my apologies. In terms of the policy framework for sustainable fisheries management and development, there is a regional indicative strategic development plan that stretches over a 10-year period from 2020 to 2030. There is also the SADC industrialization strategy and the roadmap to 2063 that is also followed by the regional agriculture policy. Now, in terms of SADC, we have a common policy in fisheries, which is called the Protocol on Fisheries, which really aims to promote responsible and sustainable use of the living aquatic resources and the aquatic ecosystems of interest to state parties in order to promote and enhance food security and human health, I will just highlight a few: generate economic opportunities from nationals in the region, and then also to alleviate poverty with the ultimate objective of its eradication. The emphasis being eradication of poverty in the region. Shall we move to the status of fisheries resources in SADC region? These are stats that are provided by SADC and FAO. May I also hasten to state that these figures may increase or decrease depending on external circumstances. If we look at the total fish caught in the SADC region, and these are figures from 2019, last year's figures, it's about 2.4 million metric tons of fish that was caught in the region. Or in terms of aquaculture fish production, it's slightly over 121,000 metric tons. The contribution of fisheries GDP, regional GDP, is 3.5%. That now encompasses the whole of the SADC region's contribution to GDP. Now, in terms of the people that are employed in the fisheries sector, we have a figure of 2.3 million people employed directly and indirectly. That is also downstream services, including bunkering, food provision, stevedoring, etc. You may also now then appreciate that probably due to the impact of COVID-19 on the sector and the economy, this may have decreased substantially. Of course, we'll have a better glimpse in years to come, or maybe next year, in as far as the figures are concerned. When we look at the aquaculture value chain, the total number of people employed there is almost 78,000 people. Also, the same impact due to COVID-19 may have decreased as well. Moving over to the per capita fish consumption in the SADC region, per person, around about 12 kilograms annually. As an example, South Africa's per capita consumption is plus minus 8 kilograms, and the world has a consumption, per capita consumption of about 20 kilograms. So we're well off the mark, but we will get there in terms of consumption. What are the bottlenecks that we are facing in the SADC region? The challenges. Overfishing. Overfishing globally presents a figure of around about 33.1%. It indicates that about 33.1% of our resources have been exploited. That is globally. 59.9% of those are fully fished, and only 7% of these are underfished. These are now figures from FAO in 2018. You will also agree, panelists and everybody present, that we have to change this trajectory. Our efforts as a region in terms of collaboration and cooperation must minimize this impact so that this trajectory can change. There are also other bottlenecks, such as the negative ecosystem impacts, which result from overfishing or fishing with destructive fishing gear, amongst others, using explosives, poisons, and then the impacts of heavy bottom trawls on the natural environment, small mesh sizes, the issues of bycatches, and then also discards. The picture in the middle there portrays the seabirds that are snared and drowned annually by gill nets. Gill nets are also called the walls of death because they fish indiscriminately and they also kill indiscriminately. The figure of 400,000 is quite alarming, to say the least. We move forward. and we touch on the issue of climate change and the degradation of critical coastal habitats, issues of mangroves, seagrass, beds, and estuaries. They say a picture speaks as 1,000 words. Right? The picture here really is a very telling story because of the impact of human activity on the environment. Look at the pollution that you see there. These are all parts of the anthropogenetic factors which affects reproduction in nursery grounds, and then also the recruitment of relevant fish stocks. The human activity have resulted or impacted negatively on the environment, and we need to mitigate all these negative factors on the environment as human beings. We move to IUU fishing, what we call the animal itself, very destructive, and it's really a main contributor to overfishing and aquatic and marine ecosystem damage. Earlier during the presentation, Dr. Motseki have given or projected the figures lost to IUU fishing in the region. It's quite telling. I think something like $10 billion for the region. That's very, very alarming due to unregulated, illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing. What are the costs and the impacts of IUU fishing in the SADC region? It costs up to between 1 to 2 billion per year. In sub-Saharan Africa, it's almost 500 to 800 million. That's now in the SADC region. IUU fishing, unfortunately, also threatens the health of fish stocks. They distort markets, they undermine governance. I have illustrated that by saying that it's unfair competition. People have fishing rights and others don't, but they really compete for the same resource. It also undermines the well-being and the livelihood of coastal communities from which we derive our money. In SADC region, IUU fishing is essentially seen as a low risk and high reward activity by the perpetrators. Maybe it is time now that we have changed this trajectory to a higher risk for them, for higher risk for the perpetrators. And then we must also ensure that the fines that are issued to perpetrators need to serve as a deterrent. The fines in the region are not serving as a deterrent, very, very minimal, very low fines. How do we combat IUU fishing in the region? And what are those challenges? How do we address that? We should not only look at addressing the challenges nationally, but through a strengthened regional collaboration and partnership with relevant stakeholders. There have been important global achievements in the fight against IUU fishing since the adoption of the International Plan of Action against IUU fishing in 2001. And this entails the development and adoption of international guidelines to promote the use of catch documentation schemes. In other words, knowing where the origin of a fish is, where was it fished, was it fished in a sustainable manner. This helps with better traceability of fish and fish products in the value chain. There is also the global records of fishing vessels. Most importantly, our refrigerated transport vessels, to know where they come from as they transport marine resources from one destination to another. Traceability. Also, the adoption of FAO agreement on posted measures to prevent, deter, and eliminate IUU fishing, the PSMA, posted measures agreement. Both the posted measures and the catch documentation schemes that we have adopted as a region represent a synergistic framework to combat IUU fishing in the region. So it helps to combine all those efforts fighting IUU fishing with not only national issues or nationals, but also external FAO, most notably the guiding organization worldwide. What is the regional cooperation? How do we strengthen MCS in the region? Eduardo? Okay, there you are. We strengthen this to secure long-term productivity. That is the ultimate aim. Also to look at the sustainability of fish stocks in the SADC and adjacent regions, such as tuna, swordfish, hake, or Nile perch, as well as to improve conservation of biodiversity and ecosystems. A regionally coordinated MCS effort is essential to develop compliant fishing operations. When you operate together, you remain stronger. There are also quite a number of efforts to stop illegal fishing in the SADC region. And these have been historically driven by national MCS activities that are unfortunately hindered by a lack of human, institutional, monetary, and infrastructure capacity, and a lack of systematic cooperation between agencies. So there is a disconnect between agencies in the region. It's about time that we harmonize legislation, that we pull resources together to fight IUU. However, since the turn of the century, efforts have been ongoing to change this situation, to create a more coherent and cooperative approach to tackling IUU fishing in the region. What have we done to strengthen that and support regional coordination? Is to set up the MCS Coordination Center in Maputo. This is still ongoing. The ministers responsible for fisheries signed the statement of commitment to combat IUU fishing in 2008. This was also then followed by the charter to establish the center as well in Maputo. The next picture there illustrates the ministers that were responsible for fisheries at the time, where they then signed that statement of commitment to combat IUU fishing in the region. This was in July 2008 in Windhoek, in the Republic of Namibia. In as far as the SADC Regional MCS Coordinating Center is concerned, how far have we gone since the signing of the statement of that commitment in Windhoek? The center essentially will provide, and we call it the Monitor, Control, Surveillance Coordinating Center. It will provide services to the SADC states and cooperating partners. And these, amongst others, are a regional fishing vessel register and also a vessel monitoring system. Many countries in the region already have existing vessel monitoring systems, so it will be complementary. It will also have a regional fisheries information portal, including fisheries MCS data and information sharing services. There should be, and there will be, a regional fisheries surveillance and observer coordination services. Namibia is championing this cause on behalf of the region in as far as the observer program is concerned. There will also be fisheries law enforcement and legal support services within the center. And the center will also support port state measures or the implementation thereof in the region. And then also national MCS capacity support services. So the center will serve as a feeder. It will serve as a catalyst for the region. It will coordinate and then also dispatch information from the center to different member states. Shall we move on? Eduardo, shall we move on? Just a bit of historical perspective on the work that was done to ensure the establishment of the center in Maputo. Between 2009 and 2013, Eduardo, the slide talk 2009. Not that one. Yes, that one. Thank you so much. Between 2009 and 2013, with support from EU-funded ACP Fish Program, SADC in partnership with NFDS Africa and Stop Illegal Fishing developed frameworks to set up the regional cooperation mechanisms. And then between 2015, WWF supported SADC processes to negotiate and also to validate a charter for setting up the regional MCS Center, as well as the revision and the alignment of the project frameworks. In actual fact, WWF continued to support the region with these initiatives to ensure that the center is set up. In August 2017, SADC Council of Ministers approved this charter to establish, of course, the center in Maputo. And so far, 8 countries have now essentially signed the charter. These are Angola, Eswatini, former Swaziland, Lesotho, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, and then the United Republic of Tanzania and also Zambia. There are efforts within the region and through also the SADC Secretariat to approach all other member states to sign. In actual fact, we only need 3 signatures so that we can realize the setting up of the center in Maputo, Mozambique. I have briefly also, I think, touched on the work or the aims of the center. Some of these are to improve MCS capacity of member states to combat IUU fishing in the region. And the overall objective of this is to promote regional cooperation in fisheries governance, especially MCS, strengthening of regional vessel monitoring system, fisheries observer program, and other effective MCS systems, including information sharing. Another objective, of course, is to coordinate MCS capacity building at national level. In actual fact, to train, we need technical expertise at the center as well. And then to coordinate capacity building towards ratification and implementation of the port states measures. I know that WWF have also supported the region in training our law enforcement officials, particularly our fisheries inspectors and some observers with port state measures. In terms of the bilateral agreements between different member states, you will agree then also that bilateral agreements make multilateral agreements really, really smoother. There are existing agreements to strengthen collaboration and cooperation in the fisheries governance, trade and economic development. South Africa and Namibia has bilateral agreements. So does South Africa and Mozambique, Mozambique and Namibia, Mozambique and Malawi, Namibia and Angola, and then also our 2 landlocked countries here in Zambia and Zimbabwe. We are stronger together when we have these bilateral agreements. The agreements exist. However, there is a need to strengthen the implementation of these agreements, as most of them are really not fully implemented. In terms of our island states, remember that SADC also consists of our island states. They have the IOC PRSP, and this is a French word, the PRSP. Let me see if my French is well polished. PRSP stands for Plan Régional Surveillance de Pêche. It is essentially the regional plan for fisheries surveillance in the region that is now consisting of islands, Kenya, Mozambique, and the United Republic of Tanzania. These island states, including Kenya, Mozambique, and United Republic of Tanzania, pools surveillance officers from different countries, of course, and then their assets, which is the patrol vessels, be it planes, and then they deploy them within the IOC region in order to conduct patrols. The PRSP has also set up a regional vessel monitoring system where they are responsible for data exchange platforms. And then this information is then channeled to the national fisheries monitoring centers within the region, IOC region. In as far as the IOC Swire Fish project is concerned, consisting also of the Maldives, Mozambique, Kenya, Somalia, South Africa, and the United Republic of Tanzania, they have a project of whose objective it is to improve the management effectiveness of selected priority fisheries at regional, national, and community level. We really applaud the Swire Fish project for these initiatives to improve the management and the effectiveness of fisheries at regional, national, and community levels. Then we move over to this Fish Eye Africa project. Yes, we also have the Fish Eye Africa project, which consists of the Union of the Comoros, Kenya, Madagascar, Mauritius, Mozambique, the Seychelles, Somalia, and once again, the United Republic of Tanzania. They formed a partnership between these 8 coastal states where Stop Illegal Fish coordinates the Fish Eye Africa project and provide technical and advice and input. They also have the intelligence arm where they provide information, analysis, and then they share this with these 8 coastal states that I have alluded to earlier. The Fish Eye Africa project has also been incorporated recently under the SADC MCS Center. Because they have capacity, they continue to provide technical advice to the region as well. So we have incorporated them into the SADC MCS Center. The picture there really just shows a vessel that was engaged in illegal fishing in the region. There's some other initiative that has happened in the region. Operation Vanguard is most notable. It happened in Tanzania. It was also called the Operation Jodari. There's regional cooperation of the Sarah Bartman. Sarah Bartman is the patrol vessel in South Africa. Operation Vanguard also came to Namibia. Picture there shows enforcement officials from the Ministry of Fisheries and other law enforcement agencies that have patrolled our ocean to mitigate the impact of IUU fishing in the region and in Namibia in particular, in our exclusive economic zone. So there are regional efforts to combat IUU fishing. We cannot afford to operate in silos. We need regional cooperation and other stakeholders to assist us. In as far as WWF and other Swire Fish initiatives are concerned, it's to work with individual countries such as Kenya, Mozambique, and the United Republic of Tanzania, in actual fact, is to add value in our regional cooperation. Also to forge partnership with regional organizations such as SADC, IOC, IOTC, Swordfish, and Stop Illegal Fishing. The initiatives aims to further support regional actions such as fisheries governance, management, CSO engagement, livelihoods, and then also to assist in coastal communities. They will also endeavor to support the setting up of the center, and then also to finally combat IUU fishing in SADC and SWAIO region. They aim to support the ratification and implementation of regional and international fisheries. We spoke about the posted measures agreement, also MCS Coordinating Center, IOTC resolutions. Some of the countries have signed up, but they have not ratified. So we will move towards that direction in lobbying for them to ratify. They have also moved to support capacity building, technical expertise, training, in other words. WWF continue to do that to support us. And then also the promotion of sustainable blue growth and the policy advocacy. The issue of the blue economy, blue growth economy. We may remember that our former Minister of Fisheries was also appointed as the Sherpa of the region, together with Norway and Palau, to work on advocacy on blue growth economy for the region. In other stakeholders involved is also BCC and the Ecofish project. BCC consists, of course, of Angola, Namibia, and South Africa. These are intergovernmental agencies responsible for the management of the resources in the region, shared resources in the region. On continental level, we have the Fish Gulf, and then also other initiatives include the Fish Force Academy. Fish Force Academy is located in Port Elizabeth at the Nelson Mandela University, and it is championed by Professor Henny van As, where they're involved with the training of law enforcement officials, magistrates, prosecutors. So countries in the region will definitely take up this challenge to send their people there and to build capacity. Fish Force will also form part of the SADC region and the SADC RTT to assist us in training our officials so that we can combat not only fisheries crimes, not only fisheries, but also fisheries crimes. In terms of the IOC and Ecofish program, they are also COMESA and others, SADC and in the region, where IOC continues to support the region. And we move on. So those, just a picture indicating the members of the SADC and including the IOC member states. So there is really a need for better alignment and anchorage to improve regional cooperation in as far as IUU fishing is concerned in the region. The next presentation or next slide, this slide here shows the signing of the charter. I think it was 2018 in Windhoek, where Namibia signed the charter for the establishment of the MCS Coordinating Center in Maputo. The other picture shows the Angolan Ministers of Fisheries signing the same charter. That really shows the commitment towards this project in as far as the eradication of IUU fishing is concerned within the region. Of course, the region also, not the region, but the center provides both long, short, and medium-term opportunities to strengthen cooperation amongst all sectors. For the second time, just to emphasize that there is a need for better alignment and anchorage to improve regional cooperation. The center, the MCS Center, is now more relevant than before, and it is also necessary to coordinate. Cooperation between national agencies and between neighboring countries must ensure the following: the monitoring of vessel movement. It is critical that the region knows where vessels are moving. It is not only to establish traceability of the products, but also for the safety of our crew and the assets themselves, the vessels in actual fact. Also to assess the risk associated with vessels. I talked about the issues of the safety, the owners and the operators. We need also to gather and analyze information and intelligence. We need to provide background reports. We need to record fishing vessel information in a regional vessel registry or record. There needs to be a concerted effort in coordinating all these assets, as alluded to before: patrol vessels, the planes, whether it's fisheries observers, fisheries inspectors. We also need to facilitate the sharing and cross-checking of fisheries information. You need to ascertain whether the information is accurate, whether it's reliable. There's so much fake news in the world lately. So there are many initiatives. And also to coordinate and collaborate with other regional entities and partners. This one can never overemphasize. You need to cooperate, you need to collaborate, especially now that there is COVID-19, there is economic recession. You need to pull resources together. I also now take note of the Global Fishing Watch. They have also at a time assisted Namibia to collate information pertaining to the vessels that operated in our waters. So that really helps in terms of tracking the vessels that are fishing in your waters and ensuring that these vessels are licensed to fish in your waters. Also commendable efforts from Global Fishing Watch. I think it's led by Tony Long. As far as the alignment is concerned, the capacity, in other words, the training is essential for both national and regional activities, not only to enhance MCS, but also to stop illegal fishing. I have mentioned it in my opening statement that it is important not only to be aware of IUU fishing, but it is to eradicate it in totality. The coordinating center is geared to provide support nationally and also regionally, strengthen partnership by sharing lessons and tools in MCS between countries and also between fisheries, especially between coastal and inland fisheries. We need to train and develop expertise. I can tell you that training of fisheries personnel is very expensive, and it should be done on a continuous basis. So it's quite important that we enhance the training workshops, on the job training, that we also provide technical and capacity and other support to the region to be able to fight illegal fishing at all costs. In as far as the capacity, or is this the conclusion now? Yes, conclusion. What are the lessons that we have learned from these regional activities on the initiatives to combat IUU fishing? Yes, we rely perhaps too much on donor funding. And you know what that does? It limits regional capacities in the medium to long term. It is good to have donor funding, but it really limits your capacity at the end of the day. As I said before, it is important to have donor funding, but only as far as setting up the framework and the institutional arrangements and the implementation thereof is concerned, but we need to support that also through the deployment from different countries. Regional initiatives moving forward essentially focus on strengthening national capacities and provide platforms for cooperation and collaboration among countries. And also these initiatives should exist to share best practices. I've made mention of an example of the Fisheries Observer Agency in Namibia that has been declared the center of excellence in the region. So we will share our best practices with the region. Although also to disseminate information amongst countries, the Operation Vanguard, Operation Pakistan that happened must be replicated to the rest of the region and the rest of the member states. We need also to prioritize fisheries governance, if possible, also perhaps harmonize legislation, improve that, and then the fines must really serve as a deterrent because we need to align that with the rest of the region. Fish Eye Africa has done a bit of projects and case studies, which included vessel identity fraud, document forgery, corruption, modern day slavery, human trafficking, drug smuggling, illegal bycatches, etc. And this demonstrates that focus should go beyond IUU fishing to include fisheries crimes. So it's not only about illegal fishing, slavery, forgery, document fraud, drug smuggling also happen under the guise of IUU fishing. So we should move to fisheries crime. And I have said that the Fish Force Academy in Port Elizabeth is responsible for the training of fisheries crimes. So all interested and affected parties must join us at the academy to train our people in fisheries crimes. We need to work together to stop illegal fishing. We need to promote regional centers of excellence aligned to the MCS Coordinating Center. There need to be compliance monitoring and the scientific data collection as well as the training. Also, as concluding remarks, we need to strengthen collaboration with regional fisheries management organizations, regional fisheries bodies, and other regional organizations for better alignment and better coordination. There are different also partners involved in the implementation of the SADC fisheries program. I would not like to bore you with their names. It's self-explanatory, as you can see there. With these little remarks, that brings to a conclusion our presentation. We believe it's now time for question and answer session. I believe some members of the RTT are present here, and we would be more than welcome to receive your questions and hopefully answer them to the best of our ability. Asante, merci, obrigado. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ndafa. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your attention. For those of you who want to engage on online questions, there is a Q&A chat. We've received a few questions from there, but if you also want to raise your question, the host will allow you to raise that question, but you'll have to indicate on the screen. There is an icon where you can click and raise your hand, and it will give you an option to say it. Or if you feel that you want to type it, you can go to Q&A section. Thanks, Mr. Ndafa, for an interesting presentation. I've already received 3 questions. One from Titus. Titus is from Namibia. He raised a very interesting question regarding lack of visibility and commitment from policymakers and leaders in our region when it comes to issues around marine conservation, oceans and fisheries, as well as IUU fishing. What are we doing as a region to ensure that marine conservation and related sectors like fisheries, etc., has the attention that other terrestrial sectors like your rhino anti-poaching programs, elephants, and all these terrestrial conservation initiatives are getting? That's the question from Titus. If you can attempt to answer that one, but I'll also chip in with a response after you have done so. The second one is from Tony. Tony Long commend the region for all these different initiatives. And of course, we are aware that there are so many initiatives and there are others that we might not be aware of, like Jerome raised the issue of United Nations Office for Drug. And I think you also mentioned that in your presentation. How do we ensure that we work with partners like UNODC, as well as Interpol, I think, to ensure that we strengthen this collaboration further, and perhaps that collaboration could also trigger interest, as Titus mentioned, to further advocate for the importance of marine conservation, fisheries, and our fight against IUU fishing. Mr. Mori also raised a question. Mr. Mori from Swellfish program. Welcome, Mr. Mori. Mr. Mori says the implementation of SDG targets in fighting IUU fishing. Can we know the target reached in our region? That's the question. What have we achieved? What have we achieved in implementing the SDG target, especially the target on fighting IUU fishing? Perhaps Mr. Ndafa, I can answer that one for you. Mr. Mori, there is a study that we have commissioned together with WWF, and this study seeks to address the question that you are raising, to say how far have we gone in terms of measuring the targets. We'll be using the indicators as presented in the SDG targets to measure how far we have gone. And this report will be available this year, and it will be shared by all, to all our partners. Director WWF Mozambique raised her hand. Annabella, welcome. Thanks for being with us. I saw you joining us earlier on, and thanks for spending the 1 hour with us. Your support has always been great. And we'd like to give you an opportunity to say a word or two. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Annabella, we can hear you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's very pleasant to see this taking place. It's simultaneously a question and a comment, let's say. You know, this year was to be a very critical year for biodiversity, with a lot of international meetings taking place. Because of COVID, they all, or most of them, were postponed. And, you know, in a way, I think that COVID came to make us aware of the fact that we were probably not prepared to take advantage of all these international events, to push more an agenda for conservation that is critical for the development. It's critical for us to succeed with all the issues that you have been raising with respect to fisheries and best results for our countries. So I think that it will be really, really important that SADC, and we will be ready to collaborate with you on that, takes advantage of this delay to prepare an agenda and influence leaders from all our countries, from the president to the ministers of fisheries, to the ministers for the environment, so that some of these issues that you have been talking about come stronger in the agenda of these meetings. The oceans meeting that was supposed to be taking place internationally was delayed. We will have in September the annual meeting of the United Nations, so the 75th annual meeting of General Assembly of the United Nations. There will be meetings to review the SDGs. So I think it will be a very great opportunity to use the rest of this year and next year to really prepare a roadmap with an agenda of things that we would like to achieve. Because I've seen already one comment that, you know, our leaders are not yet committing, neither to IUU, nor to the conservation of specific species, nor to better relationships with not only regional organizations, but even international ones. The second point I would like to raise is, how are we collaborating? Because I know that the European Union has some initiatives that are very focused on gathering data about illegal vessels fishing in our waters. They might have the technology that we probably do not yet have access to. So what are we doing to collaborate better with them and grab data from them that allows us to prevent some of these illegal activities, or to go, you know, to push these vessels that were already discovered and identified and really come with stronger measures? Thank you.
Thank you, Annabella.
Mr. Ndafa, you heard the questions
Yes.
that Annabella raised. Thanks, Annabella. Perhaps a follow-up from what you raised with regard to the roadmap. Maybe you can also give examples of some of the initiatives that could come out of the roadmap. But I think as SADC, we really appreciate that challenge and we are ready for it. Of course, working with our partners, including WWF itself, and all the other partners who we've been working with, and those that will be coming new. I think working together, we can achieve more. But I think it's a good idea of the roadmap. And I like the fact that the issue of COVID-19 has given us a chance to pause and re-evaluate the course and the roads that we've been traveling to ensure that now we can sharpen the tools going forward. So we are up to that challenge, but we'll also appreciate pointers as to some of the initiatives that you think could be taken, especially influencing high-level political leaders. We've tried to advocate, and as it's been said, that maybe it hasn't been enough. We have a chance to do better and to do more. Mr. Ndafa.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Motseki. The statement, question that was raised by Annabella really ties in also with the remarks or comments or questions raised by Titus from Namibia. Now, Titus and I work together. He works with the Albatross Task Force, so we are responsible for the training of our fisheries observers in as far as the mitigation measures pertaining to seabirds mortality is concerned. Now, remember that politicians and lawmakers are responsible to drive policy and then also to create awareness. That's essentially their role. But I understand that you say they may not be quite involved in marine conservation as opposed to the terrestrial aspects of that. Now, as a regional body, a regional technical team, you will appreciate that we cannot be prescriptive to independent countries on what to do. However, I appreciate the comment also by Annabella to say, let's prepare a roadmap or a national agenda to support or to lobby support at the highest offices in each of the countries. Because I know that many of the ministers responsible for fisheries, aquaculture, really attend different fora internationally pertaining to IUU fishing. If we can have that support at that level, which can then be cascaded down to national levels by the ministers responsible for fisheries and aquaculture, I think we'll be able to champion the cause of marine conservation in the region. You must also realize that it is the role of every individual in every member state to fight IUU. It is not only the role of government alone. So these collective efforts must eradicate IUU. Yeah, briefly only on that, on the not the reluctance, but lawmakers who are not willing to come to the fore in terms of marine conservation. In as far as the European Union is concerned and the partnership that we have, maybe Dr. Motseki can just talk briefly about the Interpol, for example, Interpol, and also some initiatives of the European Union that SADC has embraced and worked together. I know there is a portal also where Interpol provides intelligence and information to the region. You're on mute.
Thank you, Stan. Before I respond to that, we have Dr. Manuel Castellano online. He has his hand up. Perhaps we can give him a chance to say a word or two. Dr.
Welcome.
Castellano.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Hope that you hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much for the presentations and for this opportunity as well. And I would like also to congratulate everybody who have been active in the oceans and provide some time to dedicate to protect the ocean and the marine biodiversity for along these years. So today is our day. So congratulations to all. My question is that I'm looking back years back, and I've seen in past Namibia taking leadership in the very good MCS system in place. Tanzania arresting illegal vessels. I recall Tawariki case. Mozambique arrested vessels like Antilles Reefers and so on and so forth. And South Africa involved in regional collaborations. So things that really showed a bit of leadership in the SADC region. So my question is that what changed that we don't hear any active leadership roles against illegal fishing? And in contrary, we hear that the SADC coastal states are open. They have opened their seas to the foreigners, in particular the Asian fishing vessels demanding our waters. So what is happening? I recall, just to bring the case of West Africa, where small scale fishers, artisanal fishers, they've raised their hand and stopped the entry of some Chinese vessels in their waters. So what are we doing in the sense that things like that will not happen in the region, to see the fishermen themselves stopping the entrance of foreign fishing vessels? Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Castellano. A very interesting question, and I'm sure amongst our participants or attendees, there could be an answer or two regarding that one. I'm also asking myself, what happened? Countries were ready to collaborate. When South Africa sent out Sarah Bartman for sale in the West Indian Ocean, joined by some of the coastal states up to Kenya, there was a hype and everybody was ready. There was a commitment. Leadership was there at the highest level. And over the years, that has gone, I'm not sure if it has gone out the window, but it has really went down. One of the things could be priorities that have changed. One of it might be we are not making enough noise, like Titus from Namibia indicated, that we silent. It doesn't mean, Dr. Castellano, that those cases that you've mentioned, we don't have similar examples that are happening recently. You remember a few years ago, there was a story of NESA 7 in Mozambique. There was a story of the same NESA 7, which was Nahan in Cape Town. And there are several other stories, and I think some of these are documented by some of our partners. But you are right. What has happened, it's also really worrying. Before I give Mr. Ndacha a chance to say something, we have Mr. Mori raising his hand. Can we also give Mr. Mori a chance to say something?
Yes.
Can I? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead, Mori.
I must thank you all for making the region alive, vivid, and showcase what we are doing. It's not an easy job. You've done it perfectly well today. There are similar events going on the net, and I must congratulate you for that. The second thing that I must raise is the point which Manuel Castellano brought forward. It's not a question. I understand, Manuel, we need to be more proactive. The region must be led in approach and initiatives. But we also understand there are things which are beyond our parameters. There are some of the countries in the region, whether we like it or not, we are dependent on having distant water fleets, let's say from Southeast Asia or whatever, from China or whoever applies, and to come and fish down in their waters because of the lack of their fishing effort capability. Once this aspect will be sorted out, I'm dead sure that we will be in a safer position to counteract IUU fishing. And I'm sure, and I cross fingers, I pray that the SADC MCS Center be operationalized the soonest, because this is what the region lacks. Though in the Indian Ocean, we have the IOC network, but I think it's good to set an example and on the mainland of Africa. And then SADC is our representative of all the coastal states, including the IOC countries. They can showcase that we mean business in fighting IUU, because there was one of the questions maybe which people didn't think well. During the pandemic period, there were fishing vessels still fishing on the high seas, and there were no observers, no inspectors, no scientists on board. It was impossible. We have to understand this logic. But was there a synergy of alternatives to recommend to the RFMO that in the absence of these operations, those vessels that are fitted with cameras could have put at our disposal or the disposal of the RFMOs, the cameras for them to track what operation has taken place. Unfortunately, this has not been done. So the sooner, the better this region come up with the appropriate infrastructure, there will be that leadership. I'm sure there are people of high caliber in the region. They can take the lead and they can showcase the region in its endeavor to fight IUU fishing. Thank you once again, and thanks everybody for this initiative.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mori. We have 5 minutes to wrap up this discussion. And I think the questions that have come are very, very important and valuable, and they will shape the way we move forward as a region. Mr. Ndaka, do you have a word or two you want to say regarding what has been raised?
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Motseki. One of the main issues that was raised, I think was also echoed now by Mauri, and to say within the region, do our fishers or those who have fishing rights or fishing quotas, do they have capacity? In other words, do they have the assets? Do they have do they have fishing vessels? Do they have factories? I think not. What do they then do? They form joint ventures and partnership with foreign nationals who may have the capacity. And that's how then you see foreign fishing vessels in the EEZs of certain countries to assist them to enjoy the benefit of the marine resources within the region. Now, in terms of violations in the region, you would, and this is a generalization, I'm not talking about a specific country, you will find that violations pertaining to fisheries may have dropped. So the question arises, is there greater self-awareness amongst the fishers to say this resource belongs to us, to all of us, we need to safeguard it for present and future generations? That could also be a consideration, because amongst our countries, there are definitely greater self-awareness to protect the resources, as I said. But overall, really, we cannot ignore the fact that the region does not have capacity, whether monetary, whether the beneficial ownership will be vested in a specific country. Hence, they form, in my view, partnerships with other countries to assist them to exploit the resources. So the best thing also to do is for those that have the benefits of having rights to really save up and purchase their own vessels, setting up their own companies, so that beneficial ownership is vested in a particular country and not at the expense of nationals where others take out the resources to their countries. I think just to cover what Mauri has said, in terms of the EU and Interpol, I still want you, Dr. Motseki, to get in there. And if there's any other member of the RTT to also highlight and underscore the facts that, or questions that were raised by other people online.
Thank you, Mr. Stan. Of course, through the EcoFish program, we are anticipating to strengthen collaboration with EU. We already have a collaboration with Interpol through the work we are doing with Stop Illegal Fishing. And as SADC in general, there is already a collaboration with Interpol in the terrestrial environment. And there was an intention to expand that to the marine environment, especially with regard to IUU fishing. And we did have several capacity building programs supported through WWF, which are linked to the work that EU is doing in the fight against IUU fishing. In the work that we are currently doing with the MCS Center, the Interim Project Management Unit, we have a scheduled visit. COVID-19 unfortunately happened, where we're going to start engaging with EFCA in Europe to have that initiative linked with the MCS Center. And I think, like Annabella indicated earlier on, that this period gives us an opportunity to review what we were supposed to do and how we can do that much better. Without wasting time, if Johnny is there, we would like to hear from him. Johnny from Seychelles. If he can be able to say a word or two. Johnny is a member of the regional technical team representing island states. Johnny. Johnny, I think Johnny is not there. But I think Mr. Ndafa, I think we can close the session. We will provide a report to everybody who logged in, and perhaps written responses to some of the questions that could not be answered here will be provided by Mr. Ndafa, and we will circulate it to everybody. Thanks to the WWF team for coordinating this meeting, and we thank everybody who participated and joined us in commemorating World Oceans Day. We also included aspects of the International Day for the fight against IUU fishing. And you raised very interesting issues and points, and also provided advice as a collective, how do we move on from here? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Motseki.
Have a good day. Stay safe. And together we can fight this COVID-19 pandemic. Cheers.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, cheers.
Bye-bye, thank you.